Welcome to Slam Day, Boston Celtics podcast brought to you by Odyssey. Tough night for the Celtics at TD Garden. This Wednesday night, they fall to the Golden State Warriors 118 to what was the final that they had? 112. Yeah, got a little squirrely there at the end of the fourth quarter. I'm Meghan Ottolini of WEI and Odyssey, joined as always by Justin Turpin of WEI and Odyssey and Esteban Bustillos of GBH. So guys, it's been a long day. We all got here pretty early because we wanted to sit in and talk to the coaches and in particular talk to Steve Kerr coming off the crazy election day that we had yesterday. Crazy, Justin, how unexpected and dramatic it was and quickly it was called. I think a lot of us thought we would come here today and not even really know what the results were. Obviously, we know what the results were. But there was this other narrative that was running with this game, which if you were in Jayson Tatum's press conference like we just came out of, seemed like something that he did not really want to participate in this narrative, which is Jayson Tatum's revenge for the Olympic DNPs that he had under Team USA coach Steve Kerr. And 32 points, 2 assists, 1 17-point quarter. I'll start with you, Esteban. Do you think that Tatum did enough to warrant any kind of badge of revenge, even though the Celtics lost?
I don't think it's kind of like he said that. He didn't want a part on the narrative. And, it was really funny. Like, y'all all heard it, the PA guy and the head coach for the Golden State Warriors, pause, Steve Kerr, like, they were really juicing it up. There was, like, the 3 Saudi bros, like, wearing the Jayson Tatum Olympic. It wasn't even the jersey; it was the shirts. I didn't even know they made those. So it was clearly a thing that I think there was a bit of a media-driven, fan-driven narrative. And look, I think it was just like a short-handed Celtics team. Tatum was just trying to step up, and it looked it wasn't very smooth there early on for him at least, and really the team. It was. It's kind of like some YMCA, like Saturday morning basketball. It was a little weird. Came together at the end, and like I think it's like, yeah, it's nice he had 32, but I think all of them would have rather had a win. And like this loss, I know they didn't have Brown and obviously Porzingis, but it exposed some of the little cracks in their armor. You know what I mean? That you can exploit later on.
I think we'll get to that, and I think this. Not having 2 of your starters out there from the championship team, it's an obvious thing, but it does raise some questions about the depth of the team that we'll get to. But Turp, did you go into this thinking that there was anything in the back of Tatum's mind about wanting to show Steve Kerr what he missed in Paris?
No, I really didn't. I really didn't. Actually, listening to Tatum after the Grant Williams situation, saying how he just didn't want to make it about himself, really kind of cemented that thought. I really didn't think he was going to come in and make it about himself, because I think that's something that he deserves a lot of credit for, is always playing within the game, never getting too big for the moment, I guess, where he doesn't let these narratives take over. And I think that's a credit to him, and Joe Mazzulla really puts that in their minds, like, we're not going to let these narratives dictate how we're going to play. And he didn't do anything out of the ordinary tonight. 32, it's right about what he's been averaging, shot 50% from the field. In the first quarter especially, he was just dishing the ball out. He was just playing within the game, and I give him a lot of credit. So I can't say I'm surprised at all. And I don't think you can say it was a revenge game, especially in a game that you lose. And I don't think he wanted to say that anyways, because I don't think he was looking at it as a revenge thing. So he's happy it's over with now, because now you can stop talking about the Olympics. I think this is finally where you
don't think they'll talk about it on January 20th when they play the next time?
Is that in Golden State?
I bet it's got to be in Golden State, yeah.
You should be talking about it by then. By then, it's like, what are we doing? It was already kind of far away now. I think he's lost his lust, to be honest. Like, I understand when you're in the off season, there's nothing to talk about. So, yeah, let's talk about how Jayson Tatum, and it's a valid talking point. Like, how often do you have players coming off a championship run this motivated and this kind of driven by being slighted? So I get it.
And I think it is a larger kind of dynamic that I have always thought was a little bit of a big brother, little brother between the Warriors and the Celtics. We were talking during the game in the press box, even back during those Isaiah Thomas days, well before Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown were ever here, you had the sense that the Celtics would get up for those Golden State games when they were really in their prime. And it was fun. It was a fun little thing they had going. Then obviously you have the final. So then now you have 2022, you have this wrinkle from Team USA. So I don't know that it's like a full-fledged rivalry, but I'm always interested in the dynamic. And I thought that Celtics, they were shorthanded tonight, but Kerr and Curry still know how to get you.
This was a battle of a 6-1 team and a 7-1 team. So it was a little bit different. I think there was all the attention was on Jayson Tatum and how he responded to the Olympic slate. But I do wonder, I really didn't feel it personally. I wonder how you guys felt about it. I didn't feel like in the past I have about how if somebody walks into our little
interruption.
It's our little locker room here. I didn't feel the way I felt in the past of like Celtics Warriors. I think the whole lust of this being a 2022 final rematch is over. And I know it's still Steph Curry and these guys have had their number, but I don't think that's a thing anymore. At least I felt that way.
I think it's November 6th. Yeah. There is a part of this where it's exciting for us because it's got a bunch of interesting storylines for so early in the season. But at the end of the day, when you look at what this means for the Celtics, at least, big picture when they're trying to go back-to-back in championship titles, this is not the team from the West that they need to be concerned about. And yeah, Golden State came in. They had the second best defensive rating in the league. It's a very small sample size. But Oklahoma City is the one sitting above them. And they're really, I think, kind of the big bad if you want to look at where this kind of dynamic ranks for the Celtics this season.
I kind of, after this game, and like I didn't really realize that that Golden State had only lost one game until tonight, and then watching them tonight, and there was obviously they performed very well. And Kerr had a really interesting quote pregame where he's like, this may be the best 3 shooting team. I'm kind of paraphrasing that he's ever had at Golden State, which is really funny to say when they had Steph, Clay, and KD.
I remember what you're talking about. Yeah. He was kind of saying that was a very front-loaded.
But it's spread out.
But now this is because he was asked about, do you see, and again, paraphrasing, do you see your style of basketball here in the Celtics? And he was saying, well, when Porzingis is out there, you have 5 out. It's very different. But it's more of a balanced kind of 3-point shooting attack.
Yeah, and I forget it. I don't have it I didn't look for in terms of what the foul number was, but at one point, Golden State had 5 players who have made at least 1 3. That's a very Celtics-y way to go about things. Now, granted, one of those guys was Kyle Anderson, former Spur, but who doesn't shoot threes, and he was able to. I think he made the same amount of threes in this game that he's made for the total of the regular season up to this point. So that's a bit of an anomaly, but still, I come away from this thing like Golden State can do some damage. And again, this is a Celtics team that's a little hurt right now, but Golden State's I don't think they should be taken lightly this year.
No, they're a good team. And I guess since we keep mentioning it, Kristaps Porzingis obviously out. Jaylen Brown continues to deal with this hip flexor injury. And I was thinking, this might sound obvious, but with those 2 stars out of the lineup, you do just fall to the level of being a very good team. That's who they are with Jayson Tatum, who's a superstar, puts up 32 points. But even then, you have Derek White putting up 26, and Derek White was incredible tonight, as he often is. He's a really, really good player. And you have a role player like Nunez Keita stepping up and so awesome. And you have Peyton Pritchard having moments. You have a lot of depth on the team, but even some sparks from Al Horford too. But without those 2 pieces, it just is kind of a reality check of, your team's really deep, but that front end talent is critical to how much better this team is than all the other teams in the league.
2 starters.
Yeah.
And part of that too is a guy that you didn't even mention because he was kind of invisible out there tonight is Drew Holiday. 11 from the field, 0-6 from 3, and he's been really steady. He's been shooting the ball at almost a 50% clip this year, and just had that stinker tonight. And they needed him to step up when you're down 2 starters. And it's funny because we're talking about them as like starters, but these are 2 All-NBA caliber players that you're taking out.
Well,
of
and
your
that's
lineup.
the point is they're not just starters; they're stars. So you take out 2 stars. Is Drew Holiday still a star? I mean, he's
a different kind of star.
And one of the best defensive players in the league. But again, like he's a little bit in a different point of his career. Any other major takeaways for you guys? I know we were both excited about the third quarter. To me, the most notable thing was they went from the second quarter, Joe Mazzulla's favorite stat, other than the fake stat of the potential exists, which is not a thing, that's real. And I talked to a statistician before the game today about this. And I'm like, I wonder if he'll ever come on the pod so we can have an expert when we fight about this. But all that to say, the stat line of attempted threes, they only had 8 in the second quarter. And they were getting the right looks, but nothing was falling. They jumped that up to 21 in the third quarter. And to me, that's where they found the momentum in the game.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, the box score, but in the third quarter, I believe they had 7 offensive rebounds, the Celtics, which they were yielding all these second chance points on top of the threes, which is dominating the margins. In the fourth quarter, I know this one off the top of my head, they surrendered 7 offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
And
those 2 to Looney at the end, that was what killed it. That was won the game for Golden State.
Yeah, they scored 10 second chance points in the fourth quarter in a game that you lost by 6.
Yeah.
You led by 7 in the fourth quarter. There's your game.
Yeah, and the one play where Curry drives, kicks to I think it was Buddy Hield for the 3, maybe the other big play of the game. It was just not a very good defense by Jayson Tatum. Like he was just kind of stood there, and then when it was passed, he was like, "Oh wait." So I think there's this is a game that the Celtics could have won, even having been down. It's like you said, it's like something Mazzulla says all the time: you got to win the margins and the small details. They just didn't necessarily do a great job down the stretch.
I thought they came out flat to jump. Yeah. I was a little disappointed by that. And I'll single out Jayson Tatum just because statistically, the way that he's been this season, where he's coming out in the first quarter and he's averaging 13.3 points per that first quarter and playing the entire first quarter, he definitely seemed a little overwhelmed by the traps that they were setting, them blitzing him as the ball carrier so much. And he found it clearly. He had that great third quarter, but I do think that was one of the difference makers in this game.
Yeah, and Golden State deserves a lot of credit for the game plan there, where they were blitzing Tatum off that ball screen every time, and it made him uncomfortable. And they were also playing very physical, so they have the luxury of doing that, and that goes back to what we were just talking about when you don't have Jaylen Brown. You can put that pressure on Jayson Tatum. So I thought they game planned that perfectly, but I'm with you. And we were talking about it up there. I think even the crowd was a little weak to begin with.
Everybody was up late last night. It was very stressful for people.
I will say, I know this is a Celtics podcast. I do just want to take a moment to appreciate, my goodness, Steph Curry is one of the most fun people to watch in person. I don't know if there's been one player who carries as much a center of gravity as him. On the court, literally everybody, all eyes are on him. On that can screw up an entire defense just because everybody's watching this one guy. And also the arena, everybody was booing, but when they introduced Curry, a mix of boos and because that's outside the game.
He's a generational talent.
Yeah. It was even cooler pregame when he came out and they started cheering. And then when he was going into the locker room, swarms of people just running down to try to even get a glimpse at him. And full disclosure, I usually watch them warm up down there. I was on the other side today. I was watching Steph Curry. That's that's the greatest shooter the game has ever seen.
Yeah.
So I had to go over there and check it out. It's so incredible, the talent that we've been able to see. And we talked about it on the podcast the other day, but when we talked about the MVPs, guys like LeBron, guys like KD, guys like Curry, who are kind of nearing the end. And Meghan and I were talking about it. He's 36. How much longer does he have? And only comes to Boston once a year.
I felt personally attacked by that. Well, I was like, what do you mean? He's in the prime of his life.
Of his life, not his athletic career.
He's in the prime of everything.
Hey, we've been saying LeBron's going to be out for 2 decades now. So if he can do it, who knows? I'm sure Steph is investing just as much money.
All right. Well, Celtics lose to the Warriors, 118-112. Mixed bag of a night, but a whole lot of, qualifiers with this one. So it's not the worst loss, but this has been slammed guys. We're going to continue trying to do one of these days. We're going to get one of these post-game pods out on the court, but
the ice. They're doing the ice.
He's flipping to Bruins games the next night, so we end up in this weird little locker room where everybody's trying to break into the pod. So one day soon, we will have a
we're in high demand.
pod.
Everybody just wants to be the guest. We're like, no, please.
Steve Kerr's right next door.
Yeah,
you know what he's doing over there.
Yeah, having a beer.
That's right.
Having a beer. He earned it. Okay, this has been Slam. Guys, if you enjoyed it, please follow all of our social media at SlamPod, particularly on Twitter and Instagram. And please like, subscribe, follow wherever you get your podcasts.